Welcome to Just Saying, a podcast produced by and recorded at Tri-State Worship Center. Now here are your hosts, Allison Gardner and Pastor Terry Wagner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Just Saying podcast. My name's Allison Gardner.
Hey, Allison Gardner.
Here we go.
I didn't do it on the first.
Timing!
Yeah.
What was that? You
What?
usually wait. You've been waiting.
Do you want to?
I've been waiting! Sorry.
I don't know the rest. I didn't listen to that.
I think it's Squirrel Like
I don't
You.
listen to that devil music.
Been waiting for a squirrel like you.
Well,
Hi, Allison.
hi. I am here with Pastor Terry Wagner.
Hello, everyone.
And our...
What are you going to call him today?
Yeah.
Guest. He's our guest
He
today.
is our guest, but he is multi-purpose.
Man.
Multi-purpose guest.
I'm a multi-purpose cleaner.
Yep. Yep.
Wait a minute.
Multifunctional sound engineer guest.
Everything to everybody.
Yes. He is Tyler Staten.
Whatever you want me to be, I am.
Yeah. Wait a minute. That's somewhere else. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Anyways.
Yes.
Welcome back.
What are we doing this season, Allison?
We are interviewing people this
We
season.
are interviewing people.
We
We're
are.
looking at life change through the lens of Scripture.
Yes.
And to stay in the common theme of through the lens of Scripture, we've just been talking to people about their life change. And
Testimony.
Guess who we're going to talk to today?
Who, PT?
Who is it?
Tyler Staten.
Ty.
That's right.
You guys didn't tell me about that.
Well, we like it to be all natural.
Exactly.
Authentic.
Right.
This is
We don't want out to pretend.
the real.
It
the
is the
real
real.
show.
The reels.
You think you know, but you have no idea.
Exactly. The Diary of Tyler Staten.
And Frank. Oh, wait. Yeah. Tyler Staten.
no.
Never mind.
No. And today's episode is sponsored by Lance Toast
Right.
Cheese
Yeah.
Crackers.
And Nabisco.
Nabisco Variety Pack.
Yes.
For those of you that this might be your first episode,
Welcome.
Welcome. And where you been? We record our podcast in a room that we call our media room,
We call.
but we share it with our backpack of blessings. Is actually what the program's called. We pack backpacks for 2 elementary schools in our area so that kids have food on the weekends. And so to have room to put all this food that we pack, it's in the media room.
Yeah.
And so we
It's
decided to let them sponsor us.
Right. I mean, you're there. The
Right.
brand is right in front of our faces. And when we get video eventually,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to be showcasing the brand. Like,
Exactly.
That's just, and it's good sound insulation.
Right. And for all you other
Good soundproofing.
Yeah.
for all you other snack people out there that would like for us to, mention your name on our broadcast.
Here's looking at you, Reese's.
Just contact us at twagner977@gmail.com.
Thank you very much.
You will sponsor us.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you will.
You will.
You will.
Or else.
Allison said so.
We need merch. We
And
need.
I'll just say this. I myself, and I know Pastor T, is a big fan of the Zero Candy Bar.
Oh, me too.
Man.
Me
Okay,
too.
3 for 3. All of us love Zero Candy Bars.
Exactly.
So
Zero.
You guys want
Where you at, Zero?
Sponsor us.
be our sponsor?
I have enjoyed your product since
Yes.
I was 5 years old.
Yes.
And I'm 62
So good.
now, so it's been a long time.
I'll never forget the first time I had one because when you look at it, when I first looked at it, I was like, this has got
Nah.
coconut.
Yeah,
or
it looks like
something
a
in
protein bar.
And I was
maybe.
like,
yeah,
I don't think I'm going to like this.
0 calories or something. Yeah.
And then I took a bite. I mean, I think me and my family, we used to go on trips to Cincinnati to Kings Island. Had an aunt that, lived up there. And we would always load up with candy bars and drinks and stuff. And that was the first time. I'll never forget that because I was like, this is
This
amazing.
is
Yeah.
golden.
That caramel nougat.
Oh,
in there.
it's
so
so
good.
good. Like Three Musketeers meets just white chocolate goodness.
Right.
Yes.
I just
I
love
think
white
chocolate.
we,
Better
we
than
may
that.
need to pause this recording
And go get
go
Zero
find some
bars.
Zero.
Anybody have a napkin? I'm salivating.
That was the first time I got caught stealing.
oh, the first time.
Yeah. Oh, I've
I
stolen.
guess it wasn't the last.
Oh no, I've stolen many
Word.
times. Not in the last 40 years, but
Pre-conversion.
When I was 8 years
Stealing
old.
hearts.
Oh, 8 years old in my grandma's neighborhood market. I stole a zero candy bar from behind
Wow.
the.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know it was a bad day, and truly was. My grandma came in. She's like, "Did I hear you put something in your pocket?" And I'm like, "No, Grandma, I didn't put nothing in my pocket." And then she patted my pocket, and you could hear it in there. And she goes, "That's it. I can never let you behind the counter again." And I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
I can't get behind the counter now. I'm not going to be able to steal any more zero candy bars.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
So you were just upset that you got caught, not upset that
At
you
the
did
moment,
it.
at the moment, in that moment, I
Right,
was just
right.
upset I got caught. But,
Yeah.
it was not a repentant kind of sorrow.
No.
Any of the years later, did you ever like offer to pay that back or?
Did you eat it? Like
I did,
Okay,
yeah.
so it was the wrapper. The wrapper was there.
Well, it was still.
Oh.
I had taken a bite from it.
Oh, okay.
And she couldn't put it back in
Right,
the box. So
right.
she's like, "You can never be behind the counter again. But go ahead and enjoy the
Right,
rest of the candy bar."
Might as well.
Okay. Hey, why are we here today? How did we get there?
We
My goodness.
are here.
Rabbit trail.
Yes. To interview Tyler Staten.
Tyler Staten.
Tyler, why are we interviewing you? Tell us.
I don't know.
You guys just said be here
you
at
guys said
4.
Be
and
here at 4, and here I am.
Here he is. He's here every time.
Lack of options. I don't know.
No, we actually had Tyler on the list of people to interview. So
did.
this was not a lack of options. This was
Right.
not looking
Nobody
for-
else was available.
Right.
Yeah. At number 2, which I'm wondering if that was,
I
a
don't.
sign of how you really feel about me.
It was not.
No, we wanted
Just
we
kidding.
wanted to give you the opportunity to like prepare yourself. So you heard the first recording,
Oh, okay.
and now
Yeah.
you kind of know what's coming up.
Right.
So
True.
there you
It's
go.
true.
Because we love you.
Yes,
Well,
we do.
Yes.
Feeling is mutual.
So
I love me too.
we're about to find out.
If I was you, I'd want to be me.
Okay, bring it in. Bring it in.
Woosah.
Bring it in.
7 minutes in.
Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler, tell us.
Yes.
Just
Ty-Ty.
give us. Yeah, affectionately known
Yes.
as Ty Ty.
Yes.
Just give us a real quick bio, if you will.
Ooh.
Who is Tyler Staten?
Bio.
Man, where do I start? Let's see. It was a cold January day in 1986. My mother had taken us to the Muppet Show. This is a true story, by the way.
Wait a minute.
And
You were born then. You were already born.
no, I was
Your
in
mother.
I was
gotcha.
in the womb.
In the womb.
In
He
womb.
had a womb
I could
with
hear-
a view.
I could hear Kermit the Frog, but I couldn't see him. But I guess I really wanted to get out and see the show because at some point my mom stood up and her water broke and
In the show?
off to the races.
In the show.
Wow.
Wow. He's a Muppet baby.
And the
And
two
yeah.
grumpy men up in the balcony
Yes.
were going, "Who's the guy down there that couldn't wait till the end of the show?"
Excuse me, could you sit down, please? You're blocking my view. And why is the floor wet?
I got a story for that, but later. Continue your bio, please.
Okay, I guess I'll fast forward.
Yeah, would
Just
you?
a little.
Just a little.
Several
We,
years.
we still have 40 minutes.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. As of recent, I'm a happily married man with some kids and a stepdaughter and my son Cash. A member of the church here at Tri-State Worship Center. I do any and everything sound and media, and
He
that
does.
anything that PT asks of me, I just say yes and hope for the best.
Almost.
Yeah.
He says, the answer is yes. Now, what's the question?
No one's the question. Yes.
So you're a South Point guy.
yes.
Graduated from South
Graduated from South Point 2004.
Point.
Oh,
Whoa.
that's a year after I was born.
Oh, wow.
Thanks for reminding
Wow.
us, Allison. I guess
She's a
shouldn't-
youngin'.
I guess I shouldn't talk about graduating in 1977.
77. Yeah. I think I can count that high.
Oh wow!
Wow.
You know when you fill out a form online and they ask you to pick your year of birth.
Oh, yeah.
man,
You
I
gotta
gotta
scroll.
scroll,
Gotta go-
forever.
gotta go a while.
Forever.
Arm gets tired. You gotta take a break. I'll finish this later.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, graduated from South Point. We kind of knew this was going to happen,
Right.
didn't
We
we?
did.
It
We
always
did.
does.
And then you went on to
Ohio University Southern here in
right,
Ironton.
we call it the Twig.
the twig or the branch.
Yes.
Oh.
Affectionately the twig.
Yes.
But it's a southern campus of Ohio University in Athens, and I studied their electronic media program Got a 2-year associate's degree there. While I worked full-time retail at the Finish Line in the Ashland Town Center. Several years later, I actually went back to school after I felt the Lord tugging on my heart, telling me to go a specific direction, which was education, where I currently am at Collins Career Technical Center.
CCTC.
But yeah, there was a time in my life, pretty much all of my 20s, or at least up until I think I was 28 at the time, where I was kind of out of the church. I was a creaster. Actually, I wasn't even a creaster. I was just an Easter.
Right.
I would come, with my mom, and a lot of my family at one point attended this church, and I would, be invited, come up for the Easter service, and I'd come up, and that's where I met PT. Actually, it was one of those family fun day things.
I got a picture of me and you. For some reason, we're standing there. It looks like we're having a real serious conversation.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that's what we were doing.
I think it was you had learned that I was also a fan of Apple products. I was
There
a
you
Mac.
go.
I was a
Yeah.
Mac guy.
Oh.
Is
Okay.
there?
And so-
Are there any other?
It was love at first sight.
Oh boy.
But I mean, when I was, I want to say roughly 13, 14 years old, maybe 12, 13, I was at church camp, and I was saved at church camp. But then, like I said, many years later, I wasn't really involved in the church. Didn't go regularly. I went, on Easter, and I'd maybe visit a friend's church on a Wednesday night or something like that. But my heart wasn't, in it. I was just going for, for kicks.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. And then later on, I go through a rough patch, making some questionable decisions, hurting some people very close to me, and friends and family alike. And I reached a point where I just had kind of, okay, where do I go from here? I don't know what to do. I've done a lot of hurting. Where does the mending come in? And I had a mother who was pretty persistent in her prayers, but also to remind me, to be prayerful and to seek, guidance, obviously from the Lord, but also, through, visiting a church.
Right.
What better than the church she was going to,
Yeah.
Tri-State Worship Center. And so after a while of kind of just, I don't know, July 7th, 2013.
You know the date.
I come to Tri-State Worship Center, and the funny thing is, Pastor Terry was not here that day.
Wow.
He was out of town, but Mark Sparks
Yeah.
was here, and he was delivering a message on Samson and Delilah, and about what kind of will you have, a weak will or a strong will, and is that will fulfilling the purpose of God? And something about that message hit me right in the feels. And you hear people talk about these where you're like, okay, what does he know? Because everything he's saying
He's reading my
is
mail.
like, he's talking to me right now. He's not looking at me, but he's talking to me. And this was one of those. And I mean, I'm into service, altar call, and I'm fighting tears back tremendously. And at one point, I look over and I make eye contact with my mom, which is probably the worst thing to do at that point, or the best, whichever side you're on. But and she said, "Do you want it?" And before she could even get the rest out, I was
He knocked her down. She's laying on the floor. He's running to the altar.
They thought she was slain in the
everybody
spirit.
thought she was
Yeah.
slain in the spirit.
Bring a
Little-
fallout cloth. Bring a fallout cloth.
Little did she know she was concussed. But, no, I kid. But yeah, I made a beeline, or I like to call an eye line, because a bee. If I went in a beeline, I would make all
that's-
sorts of curves and that. So I went in an eye line, a lowercase I. I didn't do the back and forth. I
Right,
just
right.
straight up hopped and then fell to my knees.
Hit the dot. Hit the dot.
And yeah,
So it was kind of your search for meaning in life that brought you to that point?
I don't know if it was the meaning of life, but it was just like, okay, so far I've done some horrible things and some made some questionable decisions that kind of turned my life upside down. So at this point, I'm like, okay, how do I salvage what's left of this? You know what I mean? Like, this is what I've done with it so far. Obviously, I messed it up, but where do I go from here? You know, and there was a relationship involved, and there was friendships hurt, and there was you know, a lot of confusion inside me, which, looking back now, I think I realized that during that time, a lot of what I was dealing with, what I was confused with, was the conviction. I felt it, but I didn't know what it meant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so trying to rationalize certain things that I'm doing in my life to save myself some guilt or some responsibility versus realizing, but also knowing what the, you know, what might be the best decision at this time, even though it may hurt more or feel questionable. You know what I mean? I just felt so torn about what I should do, where I'm going, what I'm doing, what I've done. And that's what, you know, that message that day was just, I don't know, it spoke directly to me, because it was like, okay, from this point on, what are you going to do with what God gives you? You know, and that was what he was preaching on, as far as, you know, like Samson. Here's Samson, this big, strong, you know, warrior, but was he using his abilities? Not that I'm strong. I mean, I don't know. I do all right. But
is there a veterinarian in the house? Because those pythons are sick. That's right.
Oh my Lord.
I'm sorry.
But he had, you know, all this ability, all this good he could do for the Lord. But, you know, at one point, that's not what he was doing. You know, and I felt like I related to that so specifically at that time in my life.
Yeah.
So you obviously had your mom specifically. Yeah. I mean, there was some investment in you that she poured into you long before you know, any of this happened, so that you kind of knew at least where you needed to turn to and to begin that search.
Yeah, I think it's it can be a scary thing when you're turning it over to God. Especially when it's not in the moment. I feel like when it's in the moment and you feel it, you've got that tug. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why when she looked at me that day and said, "Do you wanna?" It didn't take long, and I just responded.
And she was just going to ask if you wanted to drink.
She's like,
"Do you want to drink?
Do you want to go to Applebee's or Texas Roadhouse after this?
Do you want
to go back to the Muppets again?"
But yeah, I mean, as opposed to, you know, just out living my life, not hearing a message that, you know, is speaking to me directly, and then trying to make a decision at that point to do the right thing and accept Jesus. And, you know, and again, when I was younger, I was at church camp, and I had been saved, and I had even had them pray for me to receive the Holy Spirit. And to this day, this is something I've always, you know, been curious about, because, you know, they say that the initial evidence is speaking in tongues. And I can remember, like it was yesterday, fighting my tongue because it was wanting to wiggle and make noise, and I didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but I think doing that as a young, you know, young kid, as opposed to making a decision for Christ as an adult, is different.
I'm sure,
because of the choices and the things we're faced with as an adult, and the consequences of the things we've already done as an adult.
Yeah.
You know, that we have to turn away from. And you know, when you're a kid, I don't know, kids today, you know, deal with a lot of stuff. But, you know, when I was a kid at that age, we didn't deal with the things that they're dealing with now. But anyway, and so it was new and it was scary, but at the same time, it was, man, I just remember leaving church that day feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the sermon was preached on will, and because it seems like before that moment, you were really basing your strength off of your own will and what you wanted to do.
Right, yeah.
And that the step in faith that you needed to take was, okay, I'm going to submit to the will of the Lord now.
Yeah.
And let him lead my life. So, make him the Lord of my life. Yeah. So how did your life look different after that moment?
I think back to a certain point when this is an interesting story.
Well,
but
finally,
I can think back to playing a card game with some friends, and some of the things that were the language that appeared on these cards. For the first time, I found myself like really, and this was like new in my walk, like really just still trying to figure it out. I had lived a life a lot differently before.
Right.
I didn't hesitate to do certain things,
Yeah.
or to say certain things.
Right.
And when I started reading these things, I didn't want to say them. And even though I know that my friends, cared about me and, and loved me and all that, and wouldn't have judged me if I did, I still just felt that conviction
right.
that I don't need to say this. I shouldn't say this. And that is one thing that I think anytime that question comes up or people start talking about things they used to do versus what they do now, or after, finding Christ. And I always think about that moment because it was so interesting to me because I felt like I was, 9 years old hearing cuss words on the TV, like
Right. Yeah.
looking at mom to see what her reaction was.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like.
It's like
It was
your
so
new
weird.
heart
Yeah.
was immediately averse to the things of this world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like that before. You had never felt that conviction
Right.
playing games like that before.
And
And that's the Holy Spirit.
Exactly.
Like-
and I will say this, that since then, although I still, don't like to use that language or anything, sometimes I find it hard, even though we're years removed from that incident, I haven't gotten stronger in that ability to bite my tongue, I guess, in a sense. I almost feel like it's more of a fight now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I've heard from pastors and theologians before that, the closer we get to Christ, the more real the weight of our sin
Yeah.
becomes.
Yeah.
Because we understand, the closer we see holiness, the more filthy we realize that our hearts are without Christ. And so, yes, the battle becomes even harder because there are sins in our life that we didn't even realize were there, because it's not just cuss words. It's
Right,
also
right.
words of anger. It's also bitterness. It's gossip. It's things that the world would not view as sinful
Yeah.
that the Lord reveals to us. But yeah, that makes perfect sense.
What did backtrack just a little bit when you were at the Twig and doing the 2-year thing at that particular season? You were not committed,
Correct.
to Christ. What did you think your life was going to be?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Growing up, I always had a knack for making people laugh, and
See,
if you can,
you just did it.
still got it. But I honestly, as a younger man, I had thoughts and dreams of being an actor, or at one point, even like upon graduating high school, I applied for an internship at NBC because I wanted to go be a writer for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah.
those, obviously, there's a part of me that's like, that's probably not realistic, but if I don't at least put myself out there, I'll never know, but that's the kind, and so that was why I chose, OU Southern here in that program, is because at least it's in the same realm. It's, you learn about audio production and video production, live television, things like this. And I kind of had a knack for that kind of stuff, a little bit of a creative, bone in my body. And so, and at around that same time, maybe after my first year, I'd always played music too. And about after my first year of college, me and some friends formed a band. And we started playing like open mic nights and stuff. And finally we got to a point where bars were paying us to come play music, which was really cool.
Sure.
I felt like a rock star.
Yeah.
Here I am, 20, 21 years old, playing rock and roll songs in the bar. And I think, man, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I know you could probably relate to that in a sense.
I don't know what you're
Go back
talking
to
about.
episode 1 of season 1, and you can hear about
That's
that.
true.
I never thought we were going to, be rock stars like on any kind of large scale, but it was still
when I did. I thought, I'm on my way.
it was still pretty cool,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, I wrote lyrically. I wrote a lot of the songs that we played, and so it was a way for one to kind of scratch that creative itch, and also hearing feedback from people about the songs. You know, kind of
Right.
makes you feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated from OU, I worked another, I don't know, 6-7 years in retail.
Yeah.
It was just really hard to find a full-time job. At that time, I was working full-time. I had a car payment, I had, cell phone, had some bills that I was paying. And I could not find anything that was other than part-time, working for WSAZ or anything like that. I ended up working part-time at a radio station, WLGC in Ashland, and it was a country station at the time. Now they play like oldies. And
Please tell me you weren't there because it was a country station.
I was not there because it was a country
Okay.
station.
All right.
I actually did an internship there when I was in high school, and then they asked me to come back after I graduated and gave me a part-time
I
job.
just realized how much anger I just made by saying.
Not that I don't
Please
like
tell me
some
it
country.
wasn't. No, I don't.
But-
I just tell you, I don't.
Typically, it's like 90s country. I'm not a big fan of like
Waylon and Willie. And,
Yeah.
more Garth Brooks,
Shania Twain.
Travis Tritt, guys
wow,
like that.
what just happened?
Yep.
Shenandoah.
Yep. Brooks and
Who
Dunn.
else? Brooks and Dunn.
Reba.
Diamond Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
This is good stuff.
These are real people.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, ended up working several more years in retail, and then when I came back to the Lord, I felt Him. I started helping my brother coach Little League basketball, and I just felt like there was something there. I enjoyed working with the kids, and I felt like there was something there. So somebody talked me into. I knew I wanted to pursue something in education because I felt like that was education, coaching. They kind of fit in the same box.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to Moorhead and studying special education and elementary education, and working at Collins Career Technical Center in special education for several years. But the interesting part about that, and I know you'll get a kick out of this, because all of that time had passed, and I had this associate's degree sitting here for electronic media that I'm not using. Had all this dust on it. And then here comes Tri-State Worship Center. And I finally got to put some of that stuff to use.
Yeah.
Well, and I was going to throw out, and I hope you guys don't mind, a shameless shout out to Mark Sparks because of that message that he delivered, not knowing that your situation or that
Right.
but that not only changed the trajectory of your life, it really changed the trajectory of our church because of what you do for us. I mean, it really put us on a path that was different than what we were before, with the media and the sound and the lighting and all the different things that we're involved in. And so, Mark, I don't know if you'll be listening to this at some point, but if you do, thank you for being obedient to the Lord and delivering that message, because it did. It changed your life, but I think it allowed you to take that dusty certificate that you had and
put some of those
put something to it.
skills to use.
Well, I think it's interesting that you went from wanting to be on Saturday Night Live and being a rock star to, pouring yourself into ministry at a little old church in South Point. Because it wasn't as big as it was at the time that you got here. And it's a perfect representation of how the Lord changes our desires and is faithful to use the gifts that He has given us to serve Him. And we can put aside our own ambition apart from Him and put, our focus into glorifying Him with our lives and with our talents.
Exactly. I mean, I've been able to, I don't know if you remember, it's been several years ago, Pastor Appreciation, Dave Ashworth and myself filmed a funny video.
Yeah.
Like, I still get to put some of that, the writing and the scripting and things like that.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a fake press conference, and we were asking questions, but I was using footage of Pastor Terry preaching a sermon.
Right.
And I would find little funny snippets of something I thought I can ask a question around that to where that answer
Yep.
Fit.
would be funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
Oh, well, I still have it on my computer. As a matter of fact, I watched it just a couple months ago when I was looking for something else, and it's like PT's press conference. What was that? And I clicked on it, and that's what it was. And I don't remember if it was you or Ashworth that was Jonathan, but you used that clip from the sermon where I'm saying, "Shut up, Jonathan."
Yeah, I was like, I knew I have to have that in there somewhere. So I chose my reporter name was Jonathan Steele.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and it is, and what the Lord has been able to, at least the way I see it, take what you learned at a secular college, and be able to take that and use it in a church setting
Right.
is to me, and maybe you guys think this would be hyperbole or something, but I just think it's nothing less than miraculous. I mean, I know this is a podcast of Tri-State Worship Center, but we do try to keep the topic very general,
We do.
For everybody.
Right.
But I'm going to brag on, our Facebook Live broadcast. I'd put it up against anybody. And I mean that. And Tyler Staton does that with 5 iPhones and an iPad. And it looks so good. And so it wasn't, obviously that time that you invested at the I'm sorry, I won't call it the twig. I'll call it the branch. Did not go to waste.
Right.
The
Lord used
right, yeah.
it in a circumstance that you never foresaw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have never in a million years.
I was going
Yeah.
to say, name one time while you were going that you thought, someday
Man, I
I'll
can't
probably
wait to
be at a
get to
church.
church and use this.
church media. Like, no,
I'm
nobody.
going to be a church magician.
Yeah. It's just the Lord is sovereign, and He uses the things that He puts us through
Exactly.
to glorify Himself. And it's beautiful to be able to look back on your life and see the hand of the Lord in every area.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that's really the focus of this season
Yeah.
in general, is
Yeah.
to be able to hear people's stories and see the goodness and faithfulness of the Lord
Yeah.
through everything. But I do want to ask you, Tyler, about your spiritual life now. How many years has it been since that sermon?
2013,
Almost
Oh,
10
math.
almost 9, right?
years. Yeah.
So almost a decade.
Evangelistically speaking,
Yes.
almost a decade.
Yes. But how do you see the fruit of the Spirit in your own life now, and also the ways that you practice spiritual disciplines and trying to draw closer to the Lord in your life? I mean, I'm sure that your daily life looks a lot different than it did
Yeah.
9 years ago.
Yeah.
So how do you do that practically, and how do you see that in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, if I think back to what I would be doing on a Monday at 5:00, before the Lord, I would probably be talking to some friends. Hey, you want to meet over here and grab a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, when do I get to go home?
Yeah.
Which is partly because I'm older now. And
It happens. It's only going to get worse.
you can start calling me PT because I'm perpetually tired.
Oh.
You see what I mean?
But
You see what he does? But I mean, it's not just your
Right.
spiritual life that changed. I mean, you married now, what,
Right.
four years? 3?
5?
5? Oh my-
Question mark? Yeah.
We actually, I guess we can make this public now, but we actually did your wedding in our new sanctuary before it was done.
Yes.
We weren't supposed to be in there.
Correct.
So,
Uh-oh.
yeah. I mean, if somebody hears this and wants to get us
Sorry.
in trouble, yeah. But we
Too
actually,
late now.
Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So,
that wasn't one of my sermons. But I remember, that we have carpet squares is what we used to carpet the sanctuary, and we would actually broke boxes open
Yeah.
to make an aisleway.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
put it
yeah.
on the platform. So a lot of things have changed since 2013
well, absolutely.
that make your life a lot busier.
Busier.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I'll say is that just because I surrendered to the Lord didn't mean that my life got easier.
Right.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's a lot harder. One, I'm in charge of a child.
Yeah.
What? I'm sure the Lord doesn't
And-
know about that.
And toddlers, let me tell you, if anybody's gonna test your faith or your temper, it's
Yeah.
a child. No, no, but I say that in jest, but I mean it's true that I have become a lot busier, and my time with the Lord is often spent in the car when I'm driving to and from work, things like that, because that's the quiet time, you
Yeah.
know. And then reading the Bible, I've admittedly so, I want to be as transparent as I can be. has come down to the devotion here and there, rather than a constant stream of the Word. And I know that's not good, but sometimes it's a fight to get that, even that devotion. Sometimes it's a fight with, we're in the middle of remodeling a house and things like that. And sometimes life does get in the way. But I don't want to ever use that as an excuse. And that's my, my plea for anybody else who might be experiencing that same thing. Just, I don't have the time, or my life is so busy and hectic. I don't care if you're sitting on the toilet. And that's when you got to pull out your Bible
Yeah.
app and read a devotion, if that's your quiet time. Get it in when you can. because-
Yeah.
That's probably the first time that answer's been
That's
thrown
true.
out there like
That's
that.
true. Yeah.
Bathroom devotion with Tyler Staten.
Ooh,
The word is the word, though.
we might be onto something there. Is there
you could
a
actually
special niche? that we
Right, and you
fit
can
in?
actually develop toilet paper then that has
Oh.
the scriptures on
scripture.
it. Yeah.
Or shower curtain.
Would
Or
that,
shower curtain.
Yes.
Would that be sacrilegious? Toilet paper with the word on it?
Let us investigate that.
We'll get back to you next episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now another word from our sponsor, whoever it is that, Mr. Sharman or whatever. What is
Exactly.
it? Yeah. What is
Cha
what?
cha cha.
Yeah, that.
But
Sorry.
I look forward to obviously there's a role and a responsibility for me to fulfill on Sundays and even Wednesdays. But not only that, like I want to be here. When COVID hit and we were all dispersed, man, I'm sorry, but that sucked.
Yeah.
You know?
I hear you.
Because there are certain people you need in your life, and PT, I'll sit here and tell you, and I think you know this, that you're one of those people that I constantly confide in, and even
Well,
if it's
yeah.
just in passing,
All right.
we'll talk about how's your day been, how's this doing, how's it, and we need that. We need that from each other, and it's great that our family can be there, and I encourage you to be there for your family, but sometimes you need somebody who's not your family or not
Yeah.
your friend
Right.
that is going to give it to you straight. And
Yeah.
Well,
You
and
need community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I just started a series on Wednesday nights. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't.
But thanks for saying it
Yeah.
because it's a nice segue on Wednesday nights about church community
yeah.
and how that living through this pandemic has isolation and distancing has become normal,
Yeah.
and it's okay. I mean, for people that are doing it, they think, well, this is okay. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But that was never, ever, ever what God wanted us to do.
Yeah.
He created us for relationships, the vertical ones as well as the horizontal ones.
Right.
And when we don't have that, I mean, there's a lot of things that go south
Right.
when you isolate yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
even the disciplines. Oh, sorry. I need
Say
to
that
be more-
again.
I need to be more. Even the disciplines.
There we go.
I wonder if that'll. They can wane when
Right.
you're isolated because you don't have somebody that's keeping you accountable.
Exactly.
It's constantly kind of
Right.
keeping their thumb in your back and saying, "Let's go, let's go, let's
Yeah.
go." And I think that the world, one of the unfortunate changes that's happened in the church world, in the community of faith, is people think I can sit at home, drink coffee,
And that's church.
in my
Right.
in my PJs, and it's church.
Right.
And if it has to be briefly,
Well, yeah,
if,
of course, yeah.
take it full advantage. That's why it's part of the reason it's there.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if you have to miss, you don't really have to miss.
Right.
Right.
But when you're able, get back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we
I
need
love
it.
to hear it from you, Tyler,
Yeah.
because you're the one curating the accessibility for people
Right. Well,
to
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
so this is all his fault.
no, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he
Well, it's
knows what
it's
goes
a-
into it.
This is what you call a double-edged. This is a perfect example of a
Right.
double-edged sword.
Yes.
It has so many good things,
Right.
but then there's
Right.
some negative that comes out of it.
Exactly.
The negative is some people find it easier to not go to church because they can watch it online.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't get that's not church because you are not with fellow believers.
Right,
It's
right.
just you. And PT, that's a great point. Christian community is so important.
Yeah, well, at the end of Acts chapter 2, church is birthed, right, from the upper room experience. And it says that they continually got together for the
Yeah.
apostles' teaching, for the breaking of bread, for fellowship,
Right.
and for prayer.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do any of those.
In your living room in your
In-
pajamas.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
No.
And then don't forsake the assembling of yourselves
Exactly.
together.
And that's a command.
Absolutely.
That's an
it is.
express command in
Yeah.
Scripture that we see.
Yeah.
But to kind of go back and maybe even close this out, and we can move on to something else if you want. But one
Hey,
way,
we'll tell
one
you
day-
what to do, okay?
You're
Listen,
the guest.
How dare I? But one way that my life looks different is that, you know, I used to be able to use this excuse of I can't go to church because I've got this going on, and now my excuse is I can't do that because
I've got
Yeah,
church.
Yeah.
good. That's
Yep.
real good.
It's true.
Some other people need to latch on to that. Yeah. There's a golf clap
I'm
in the
making
background.
my own sound effects.
Yeah,
And I'll
listen.
say this too. I don't ever want to come across to anybody like I've got it all together, like I'm the epitome of what it's like to be saved, because I struggle daily, and I mean daily, with certain things in my life. But the love of God has always been there for me, and has always been there as that reminder, as that little whisper in your ear of, you know, and when I think about that, I think about your story, about hearing that voice of God saying, "Is this really where you want to be? Is this really what you want to do?" And so I just want to say that to anybody listening, is that at no point will any of us ever say you have to be perfect to be a child of God.
No.
Because that's why we get to be children of God, is because
He
it's
is our
perfect for us.
perfection.
Yeah.
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 That's good.
What, and we only have a few minutes left. We'll let you know when we're done.
Yeah, Tyler.
The nerve of some people. Your sphere of influence, your circle of friends. I mean, did that change? If it did change, how did it change? I mean, what happened there?
It changed in some ways. I still have plenty of friends, or people I consider friends. Some are probably more acquaintances now, because we're not as in touch. But if I ever see them out, it's always, "Hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in forever." You know, hugs and fist bumps and whatever. But as far as who I'm, making plans with and investing my time in, and it's because I don't do the things that I used to do that changed. And I don't drink anymore, so therefore I'm not going to the bar.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you guys are going to a party where there's, I'm sorry, I'm gonna sit this one out. Not only because I feel that conviction of I shouldn't be there, but also it's conviction, but it's also using that brain God gave you to say, I don't need to put myself in that position where I could do something or make a choice that would be the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And I think we even talked about that back in season
We
one.
did.
Yeah.
We did.
I have enough faith in my God and in myself to know certain limits that I can be, okay, if I go here, okay, for example, going to a baseball game, okay? People slinging beer left and right? But I trust myself. I'm not going to, but a party
Right.
at dark when no one else is around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a difference in knowing your limits and knowing
Right.
your surroundings.
Yeah.
And am I going to have somebody, if I go to the ball game, I'm probably going to be with my dad or my brothers or, something like that. Whereas if I go to a party, I'm not going to have anybody looking out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making sure I make good decisions, make good choices.
Right. Yeah.
Ties into community too.
It does. It really does.
It all fits in.
Maybe if you don't have a church, come see us on Wednesday night. Tri-State Worship Center, 901 Sahoda Road, South Point, Ohio.
Yes.
What do you got? Anything else? Only thing I would just like to hear you address, and then we can finish up, is at this point now. I mean, from 2013 to now, and all the different things that you've gone through, getting married, having children. How do you feel like that you're living out the Christ in you? How do you feel like you're living that out at this time in your life? I know.
I guess I try to, one, through my kids, unconditional love, you know, and I have a very interesting relationship with my stepdaughter. I still feel like even after all these years, I'm still trying to, you know, win her over, you know. But really, in reality, I've stopped the fight or the try of winning her over. I'm just being myself and just loving her, but also disciplining, you know, when I need to.
I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but that sounds like God, right?
Right.
I'm gonna love you, right, and I'm gonna discipline you.
Yeah.
But
after the discipline, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you that I love you,
right?
And I'm going to tell you why,
right?
Why I did or said, you know, why I corrected you.
And even if you're not fully committed yet, or whatever the case might be, even if as a stepchild, even if you don't fully accept me as a guardian or a parental unit or whatever, I'm going to love you.
Yeah.
And when you need discipline, I'm still going to discipline you. And I just got this immediate picture of how God is with us.
Well, I think the best, you know, God is love, right? You know, we say that all the time. And for me, that's the best way that I can show God is to love. You know, I work with high school kids, some of which who are in some interesting situations with their home lives and with their emotionally, their own state, you know, of being. And to just be encouraging and to be not judging, but be encouraging and loving and just letting them know, you know, it's going to be okay. You know, it's really hard sometimes in a school setting to talk about God. You kind of put feelers out there and see if anything gets rejected, and you kind of ease your way into it. And I hate that it has to be that way, but I've gotten pretty good at it over the few years of knowing who I can and can't talk to. Even if I have to preface it with, you know, this may not be your belief, but let me tell you what works for me, you know, and then I freely talk about God when it relates to me, whether or not you want to take that and use that, you know.
Right.
But, you know, I encounter students daily who are not living a life that would probably be, you know, in line with what God has for them. But I don't judge them. You know, I love them and I'm there for them and I talk to them and encourage them. And I try to teach them a little bit, you know, here and there when I can. And recently I had a student that graduated last year send me a message and just kind of say, hey, you know, I just want to say, you know, thanks for, you know, taking time to listen to me and message me back because they had some questions that related to their life and about God. And that seed was planted when that student was in my classroom.
Wow.
We didn't have that conversation until after they graduated. Right. But that seed was planted long before. So things like that I try to not that I'm trying to be Jesus, but I'm trying to be Christ-like, you know?
No,
and I think that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yes. Well, that was great.
It was good.
It went good.
Learned a little bit more about Ty.
The man behind the computer.
Or the man behind the curtain.
Right.
Never mind the man behind the curtain.
Never mind.
Yeah, but thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler.
For, you know, being transparent with us. And it's not easy to tell people your story and be vulnerable in that way, but I think it does help people. And the Lord is good.
Yes.
And that's just, we see that in our lives. And it's valuable to think on the past and the way that he's used situations and he's used us. And that leads us to worship him even more.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
Next time we will be interviewing someone else.
I don't have my list in front of me.
TBD.
It'll be somebody.
Yep, it'll be somebody.
Maybe you.
Can I share one more thing?
Oh, yes.
I don't know.
Yes,
you're the editor of this thing.
I mean, you can put whatever you want in there.
Well, this is one of those times where I felt the tug, I felt the pull to share a story. And it's not even a story about me. And I won't even name the person who it was, but they stopped coming to church. And when I talked to them about it, their response was, I just got tired of asking for forgiveness every day. I don't care if you are as Christ-like as any person can be, you're still going to need those moments every day where you're going to forgive me for having that thought. Forgive me for having that attitude. Forgive me for, being lazy, whatever the case may be.
I agree.
So I just hate for that to hinder anybody from pursuing a relationship with God because they feel like all they're going to be doing is asking for forgiveness. And honestly, maybe you will. For a long time, you'll feel like you're asking every day. But I think God's going to continue to work on you, and he's going to start removing those things from your life, and you won't need them anymore. And that's going to be the difference.
Right. And
So stick with it.
Yeah.
And
realizing that Christ is our mediator.
Yeah.
And that his obedience and his death and his resurrection are why we are redeemed.
Yeah.
It's not the good works, quote unquote, because in reality we offer filthy rags to God without Christ.
Right.
But Christ is our perfection, like we said. And so our hope is not in how obedient we are, but how obedient he is for us.
Yes.
And that is a solid comfort.
Amen.
That is
It should be.
a rock that we can
Yes.
stand on
Yeah,
because
should be.
Christ is good no matter what.
Amen.
No matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good.
stuff.
That
Good
was
stuff.
good. Good. All right. Well, we will see you all next time.
See you the next time.
See ya.